What's going on, guys? Got another knife review here for you today. Today we're going to be looking at the Buck Vantage Pro. Not the knife that you might expect to see right now on my channel, but to be honest, the Buck, this has been a knife recently that I've really wanted to look at and review, and this is actually my friend's knife. I knew that he had this a while back when I first started getting into knives, and he showed it to me, and I couldn't even flip it, and it was my first interaction with flippers, and every time I pushed it, it was like this. I was like, this is the crappiest knife in the world, and I kind of based my judgments on it. Since then, I've gotten a ton of flippers, customs and productions or otherwise, and gotten used to the button push, button press, and the light switch pressing, for flippers and stuff like that. And so I wanted to try it out again, and so I asked if I could borrow it. And this is a knife that he's got in his toolbox that's been beat up, just absolutely beat the crap, and he sharpened it on his, I believe his Lansky, put a huge bevel on the tip of that blade. And so I basically restored it for him, sharpened it up on my wicked edge. Right now it's blazing sharp. But I wanted to try it out. I wanted to test it out because I know that it's a very cheap option for an EDC. When people get, the whole reason why I wanted to do this channel was because people who start in knife collecting or whatever, they're starting from cheaper knives, I guess, if you will. They start at a $30. I mean, this is how I started. I started with $30 tenacious, and that got me completely like infatuated with knives. And so you're always looking for what's the next best knife to get, and you kind of progress and progress, and then you go nuts and then get all these crazy expensive knives. All of a sudden $50 is nothing. $50 is budget, and then when you're starting you think that $50 is so much for a knife. But quite honestly, anywhere between $30 to $70 is a budget amount for a knife of good quality and of good pretty good materials. You can get pretty decent materials at for a knife at $40. So your standard tenacious is going to be around $35. It's a knife built in China, and this is at least when I first started collecting, I don't know if it still is today, I'm assuming it is. This is kind of like the industry standard for cheaper budget knives. At $35, you get a Chinese-made knife from a well-known company, Spyderco. You get stainless steel liners and G10, scales, 8CR13 MOV blade steel, which is decent, decent steel, and it's Spyderco. So for me, I got started on Spydercos, and I thought that they were the coolest looking knives, just gnarly looking, and really aggressive, and all those things. And then later on you get into you hear about Sabenzas, and you're like, oh, what's a Sabenza? And finally you get a Sabenza, you're like, holy smokes, this is like the most amazing thing. And then I mean, for me it's still the knife that I compare every knife to, just because it's an industry standard, just because size wise I think it's a very good medium to compare to. 3.6-inch blade, which is just a happy medium. Titanium, which is great for me, is kind of like the standard material that I base everything against, whether it's stainless steel, carbon fiber, aluminum, or whatever. Titanium is my favorite, by far my favorite material. I don't really get into anything that exotic when it comes to like Damascus or Mokutai or anything like that. I just want a really nice, strong folder, and kind of getting into customs. Anyway, I'm totally digressing here. The Buck Vantage Pro, so not the Avid, not the Select, the Buck Vantage Pro, to me is a very unique knife, because you're talking about a knife that is around 50 to $60. You know, if you shop around, you could probably maybe even get it for cheaper if you're lucky. But you know, like I said, HCR 13 MOV, G10 titanium. I'm sorry, stainless steel scales, handles. This one for me now is the new industry standard, the Kershaw injection. This also is a Chinese-made Kershaw with G10 scales, milled out holes, stainless steel clip, HCR 13 MOV. This is a Todd Rexford design. In terms of aesthetics, ergonomics on this knife, I feel like this knocks the Tenacious out of that, you know, out of the place of, you know, that first original like great budget blade. So the Kershaw injection I think is an awesome blade option. The Kershaw Blur also, this is, now you're talking about a USA made blade, extremely smooth. This is, you know, definitely a higher end one with the carbon fiber and CPM 154 blade. But if you talk about the basic one that features Sandvik steel and the grip tape, aluminum handles, you know, you can get these for I think about $50, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So anywhere between $45 to $60, you know, you can get a Blur. Again, fantastic ergonomics, Ken Onion design, recurve, and Sandvik steel is a pretty good steel, and it's got speed safe. So you can either love speed safe or hate speed safe. I hate speed safe, so I just take it out. And the Kershaw Blur is one of the smoothest knives, one of the smoothest production knives out there. You know, this flips with no effort at all. So anyway, getting into the Buck though. So again, $45 to $55 or so, $60. You're getting G10 scales, CNC milled scales with this design here, stainless steel liners, stainless steel backspacer, if you will. This one's missing the clip, but it's got a stainless steel deep carry pocket clip that attaches, you know, through these two screws right here, so it completely disappears in your pocket. And then this, again, we're talking about the Pro version, a Boss heat-treated S30V blade steel. So Boss heat treat is probably, you know, in the knife industry, one of the best heat treats, you know, out there. I know I heard recently of what Peter's heat treat and stuff, and a lot of people are doing their own custom heat treat. But in terms of a person who does their, you know, mass heat treats and stuff like that, Boss, you know, is still doing it for these companies, and that's pretty amazing, you know. And so I've heard a lot of good things about Boss, you know, heat treated S30V. And so at that price point, you're getting a far more premium steel than, I mean, S30V is commonplace, right? But you're talking about knives that are typically in the $80 to $150 range that's featuring S30V. You know, this one's HCR, $30, $40 knife, $30, $40 knife with HCR at its base level Sandvik steel 12C27. And so even that, you know, that steel is not, it's not the same as S30V. You know, the Sabenza features S30V, you know, now it's featuring S35VN, but you know, more or less they're the same thing. So at this price point, you're talking about $410 for the base level large Sabenza. So this one, you know, so that's why the Buck Vantage Pro really interested me. And I'm already like 9 minutes in and just getting to the knife, but I really wanted to give background into why this knife is so appealing for a new collector, because you do get all these nice features, and it's a USA made blade. You know, that's another crazy thing. And I've heard that Buck's warranty is pretty awesome as well. So any problems with it, you can send it right in and they take care of you, is what I've heard online and stuff like that. So I've actually asked them for a new pocket clip for my friends. So hopefully they'll respond and get back to me. There have been a number of issues where they talk about, you know, this knife being, you know, really, you know, extremely unsmooth, you know, in terms of flipping and whatnot. And you know, I tuned this up for him. I took this entire thing down. I cleaned out all the liners, tried to wipe down some of the rust that had built up in this blade. I didn't have to bend the liner or rebend anything. I just cleaned it out. I greased it up. Inside are really pretty small Teflon washers. Um, Put it all together, and this thing is like rock solid. There's no side to side. There's no up and down play on this whatsoever. And now I can pretty easily flip it out, with a button push. D10 is not the best, so I can push it out like this pretty easily. So it's not going to flip out, with every single one. Little bit of wrist flick is, maybe helps a little bit, but just pushing it down. I mean, I'm not moving my wrist at all, and it flicks out with decent authority, So, so as a flipper, it's a small flipper as well, So you don't get a lot of purchase on that flipper to put, to push down, and it works pretty well. So on those Teflon washers with the right kind of grease and cleaned out, get all that grit out, it's a nice blade. Ergonomics of this blade feel just fine. The flipper serves as a nice little, tiny little hilt or choil, if you will. You can't grab up here or anything like that. So it's a comfortable knife. It works well. The scales are rounded. So you can see how it's rounded there, kind of like concealed carried, if you will. The liner works just fine. You can see it's like there's a little bit of cutaway on the opposite scale so that you can get to the liner easily. Tension is good. Lockup on this one is at like 60%, so not that bad either. And this is like a 4 or 5 year old knife, so you got Buck's little emblem medallion kind of thing here, which I think is also like, it's nice. It's not gimmicky, it's not ugly. Buck's markings, it's just, Buck's not as popular of a brand. They've got their 110 lockback, which they say every collector needs to have. I've actually never owned one of those. I don't know, maybe one day I'll just have it just for, I don't know, just to have it. But anyway, so again, when you are talking about quality materials, you are getting essentially the same blade steel on a $50 knife as you would on a $400 knife, which is, to me, that's pretty dumbfounding. I don't know any other knife at the $50 range that has S30V. I don't even know one that has 154 cm. So when you get to that level, typically it's 8CR, 440C, OS 8. So to get S30V I think is pretty special, and I think it's worth getting out there. So the Buck Vantage Pro, and then they most recently had like the Force Pro, which is just kind of more like textured G10 and whatnot. Essentially, but it's still like, anything with the Pro I think is featuring the S30V. So, and basically, I mean, most of you guys know this by now. It's going to feature a better edge retention. I don't know about toughness, but good corrosion resistance and all those things. So far better than 8CR Sandvik steel and the regular one. This one's got CPM 154, but so yeah. Anyway, so if you guys are just getting into collecting, wanting to find the, I don't want to say perfect, but really quality knives, get a Buck Vantage Pro, clean it out, grease it up, and I think you'll find that this is a really great EDC option. Yeah, I mean, if you're not into the collecting and getting, big name and customs and all that stuff, you just want a knife that's going to hold up, I think that this will be a good option. One last thing, it is a 3 1/4 inch blade, so maybe that's smaller than what people would normally want. Slightly shorter than a Tenacious. The Rexford's a 3 1/2 inch, so it's slightly shorter than the Rexford as well. So maybe that's one thing that's not going for it. The Vantage Pro's they have a small and large version as well. The small one is I think 2 3/4 inches. So anyway, yeah, I'm rambling on here. This is actually a longer review than I expected because I was just talking about a lot of background stuff. But Again, thanks guys for watching. Yeah, just my take on the Buck Vantage Pro. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I will see you guys on the next vid. Take care. Bye.